The Montreal Canadiens went to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time since 1993. However, was it legit or luck, and will this be a mainstay for the future? We'll talk about all that in this video, and please like and subscribe and get ready for a long video if you want to watch it. So yeah, we're just diving on in. So, Montreal went to the Stanley Cup Finals, but they did it as the lowest seed in the 16-team playoffs. So is this going to be something that is a norm, that they make it to the playoffs and go deep, or is it going to be a flash in the pan type season? We're going to talk about it. We'll have to talk about the regular season first, though, and we'll also talk about 5-on-5 play, special teams, looming free agents, the goalie situation, division realignment, and finally my parting thoughts. So yeah, this will probably be 10-15 minutes, something like that. So there we go. They finished a rough 18th in the league for points percentage with a record of 21 and 11. Don't know why I was about to say 11 there. But yeah, and the division, that was the Canadian North Division. People expected it to be a pretty good division, but I think it was. I agree with that for the most part. Reality was Ottawa, while they're rebuilding, they've got some decent pieces in Vancouver. Obviously underperformed, but other than that, the teams were fairly okay. I mean, it wasn't what I thought it would live up to, but still better than what it could have been. Calgary obviously underperformed as well, but yeah. So here they are in this Canadian division that everybody's worried about. They make it to the playoffs. Still, the concerning thing for me is Montreal had 2 5-game losing streaks this year, and I believe they had 2 3-game losing streaks as well. And one of those was to finish out the season. So they had to make the playoffs, all that good stuff. Calgary was on their heels. I think Calgary flamed out as well. Ironically, Calgary Flames flaming out. But they needed to get to the playoffs. They lost 5 games to finish out the year. And in general, they didn't put together a lot of winning streaks. Their longest on the year was 3. And I think they did that 3 times this season. So there wasn't a ton of winning streaks. And then another thing we're going to have to take into account is their 5-on-5 play. And let's start off with that. Just had a weird thing with my window, so that's what that noise was. But yeah, Montreal 5-on-5, there's a lot of things to like. They had the league, one of the league's best shots for percentage, meaning that they were out shooting teams fairly often. They actually were 3rd in the entire league, only behind the Colorado Avalanche, who won the President's Trophy. And then you had the Boston Bruins, who are a mainstay in the playoffs or in the playoff hunt year in and year out. So that was a really good thing in terms of generating shots for. They did a fantastic job in this area, as they were the 5th best in the league. And out of every team that was ahead of them, all 4 made it to the playoffs, 3 of them winning a playoff round. So that's a good sign. So here we are going into this thinking, okay, there are some good signs. And there are. They also did a great job limiting shots, as their shots against per 60 were 4th best in the league, which is also really good. You're able to generate a ton of shots, and you're able to limit the shots the other team gets. And, they're 4th in the league for scoring chances for, and 8th in the league for high danger chances for. Both really good signs offensively. What they didn't do well, 5-on-5 ever, was score goals, as they ranked 19th in the league for goals for per 60. They really struggled to get goals. And it makes sense, as while they did generate a bunch of chances, I don't see Montreal as having a bunch of snipers on this team, which limits spacing. And really, I think the only one that would say, okay, this guy is a pretty good shooter would be Gallagher. And it also didn't help that, Montreal really struggled to get up in front of the net to score a lot of goals. And their offensive game, a lot of it, the shots and the generation came from the blue line. I'll show you a chart. And as you can see, there's like a blue spot in between the top of the face-off circles and towards the blue line. If the defenseman could pinch up a little bit, that would probably help them as well. Although at this point, I think with guys like Shea Weber and Joel Edmondson, you're probably unlikely to see that from them, because that's not really a norm for them. That's not how they play. And yet again, we'll circle back to the fact that really Brendan Gallagher is the only one that is sniper-esque. He has been head and shoulders above in terms of 5-on-5 goals, the best shooter for Montreal the past 4 years in terms of their goals versus expected goals. And really, outside of him, there's not anybody that just blows you out of the water there. Now, with that being talked about, we'll move on to their special teams. We'll talk about the PK first, which was really weird because in the regular season it was abysmal, and then during the playoffs it was locked down. Very, very weird. So there's no lot of excuses you can have in this Canadian division because it's just how it is. Or I guess I should say there's a lot of excuses you can make with how good the offensive players are, especially McDavid, all that. But the underlying numbers for Montreal are concerning, I have to be honest with you. They finished 23rd this regular season for PK percentage. And I know a lot of people will say the playoffs, but we're not talking about that. We're focusing on the regular season, where it's harder to find motivation when you're not a handful of games away from the Stanley Cup Finals. So, I'm going to be honest. The goalies are not to blame here. Montreal allowed the third most scoring chances against on the PK, as well as the seventh most high danger chances. Now, I am aware that people are probably going to use the McDavid and co argument, but they actually were only outscored 5-3 on the PK against the Oilers. So it wasn't like they burned them. I think the team that they struggled with the most was Toronto. They were outscored 6-0 on the PK. So the argument there, I mean, they did score 5 goals, so I'll give you that. But at the same time, Montreal scored 3 shorthanded goals. Now, overall, it was really tough for the Canadiens, and I'm glad they cleaned it up in the playoffs. But I'm definitely going to need to see more of that in the regular season. Shea Weber, I think, kind of struggled a little bit on the PK this year. Now, that's it for the PK. There's not too much to say there. But moving on to the power play, this is another dud for the Habs as they finish 17th in the league for power play percentage. The underlying numbers for this are pretty concerning. The fact that they managed to be 17th for power play percentage is kind of shocking. Now, they did have the 4th most shots for per 60 in the league for power play shots. Now, the problem is, though, they were 28th for scoring chances and 27th for high danger chances. They're not generating a bunch of good looks, which, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but some of the depth that they have, I'm not surprised. In short, the odd man advantage for Montreal didn't really have a lot of teeth, and they couldn't get a ton of dangerous looks, which I'm sure if you're a Habs fan, you'd be able to say, yeah, that seems pretty relatable. Now, it shows in the fact that, they're 18th in the league for goals for per 60 on the power play. I don't know. I think that, they've got a problem here that I don't know if they're going to be able to address, which we'll talk about in this next situation with the special teams out of the way, which leads into our looming free agents, which will tie into probably the power play and the offense in general. Now, the Canadiens, I would say, have 4 free agents that they're probably going to have to wonder, are we going to keep these guys? But they only have $14.5 million to work with. You have Tomas Tatar, and I know a lot of people don't view him as important, all because, I don't know. I'm not sure if it was the weird goal drought, how he finished out this year and all the mysteriousness with the injury or whatever, but you have him. I think he's a pretty big piece for the Habs. I would try to keep him if I could. Then you have Philip Deneau, and he's important to the team for sure. You're going to probably have to re-sign him. What he's going to ask for, I really couldn't tell you. I'm not in his camp where they're going to talk about with his agent and all that. Then you have Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who is an RFA. I don't know if you keep him. I see upside in him, and I don't know if it's because I'm biased and I really want his career to turn out well. Maybe a bridge deal that's cheap, a 2-year deal, team-friendly deal might not be the worst idea for him because in the playoffs looked better. He showed some flashes. And then, of course, you have Yoel Armia, who is 28, and he's been a really good fit for Montreal since he's come in. I think 3 years ago was when he came into Montreal. I don't know where he's going to fit in well. But you have 4 guys right there and $14.5 million to work with. That's an issue. And the thing is, for me, you would ideally like to go and get somebody that could help you on the power play, but you don't have the money to do so unless you let Tatar go, maybe Armia or Kotkaniemi, I don't know. But I imagine Gallagher would probably stay. But even still then, I don't know what's going to go on there. And all while this is going on, I'm just not really sure what Mark Bergevin is going to do because, I could see him not even offering anything to Tatar. That would be, I would expect that from him. And it's crazy considering the production that Tomas Tatar has been able to give the Canadiens since he's been in Quebec. Now, enough of the free agent talk because as we said, this is really what it comes down to. They're going to have to find somebody to help them out on the power play, probably keep Gallagher. I don't know what they do with the rest. They're going to have to figure out something, though, with their cap situation in order to try to improve the power play. Now, we're going to be talking about the goalie situation. Carey Price is going to be 34 at the start of this upcoming season. He'll be getting paid $10.5 million for the next 4 years. So he's going to have a $10.5 million cap hit every year, which is worrisome for me. He's actually getting paid more than most goalies pay both of their goalies on the roster. You get 2 goalies, he's getting paid just about more than every other team's paying their goalies. Then you have backup Jake Allen, and he's getting $2.875 million the next 2 years. So that's going to be his average hit on the cap the next 2 years. Now, there are only 3 teams in the NHL that spend over $10 million on their goalies. So Carey Price makes more than the other goalies on every other team for, 28 out of 31, something like that. And I can tell you right now that they're not getting the value that they're spending. And this isn't against Carey Price because I am a big Carey Price fan, but $10.5 million for a goalie, that's like Vasilevsky level production you would need. Now, Montreal actually leads the league in cap spent on goalies. And, you think they would want to get the most value out of it, but, look me in the eye and tell me that you actually think that's happening. I think Vegas is probably getting the most bang for their buck, considering they're second in the league for goalie spending, but they have Fleury and Leonard, so as you can see, you have that there. Now, like I said, I love Carey Price as much as the next fan, but $10.5 million per year, you're going to need him to provide so much more. And the thing that's weird is considering he'll be over 35 in 2 years, I don't know if that's going to happen. In order for things to go now, well, you're going to need Carey Price to be playoff Carey Price, but all the time now, which, with a guy that's had some injuries, that's played a lot of minutes, started a bunch of games in the net for the Canadiens, I don't know if that's going to happen, and I worry that, this could be something where he declines as time goes on. We'll have to see. But here's the thing. Anymore, you can't say, okay, we're going to make excuses for him. When you're getting paid $10.5 million, more than 28 other teams in the league for their entire goalies, for both of their goalies, there's no excuses. I don't want to hear any excuses. At this point, if Carey Price has a bad season, I'm not going to defend it, and it doesn't mean that I don't like him as a player, because I do, but I'm just going to say there has to be, some productivity that, says, okay, he should be like top 5 in Vezina voting every year, or something like that. Now, with that rant over, we will talk about divisional realignment. Now, next year, the divisions are going back to normal. So, does this help or hurt Montreal in terms of their luck or legit run to the Stanley Cup Finals and for the future? I don't know. I'm thinking it could hurt them because Montreal will be playing in the Atlantic again. It's not as rosy as it once was. The Habs will likely probably beat up on the Buffalo Sabres, but the rest of the division, they're not so likely to be pushovers. The Tampa Bay are 2-time defending champions. The Boston Bruins, consistently good for a long time. Toronto, while underachieving the playoffs, has been a good regular season team for 5 years now. Florida, I'm still pretty iffy about, but they've showed promise this year. Then you have 2 other teams remaining so far. Ottawa, who went, Ottawa went 4-4-2 against Montreal this year, so not too bad for Ottawa, especially for a team that's rebuilding. That's kind of concerning for Montreal. Then you have Detroit, who should be done with their rebuild very soon. And that's tough right there. I don't think it's going to help them going from the Canadian division where, Ottawa, they're getting another year of experience. They're probably going to start sending some more guys. You're not getting to play Vancouver, which I'm a big Vancouver fan. Probably my favorite NHL team, if I'm being honest. Sorry, Blue Jackets fans. It's really close, but it's the Canucks. But at the end, the Canucks have a lot of defensive issues. Demko is good, but we give up a ton of scoring chances. Calgary underperformed this year. I just think that the Atlantic Division, especially at the top, is really tough. And if you're not going to grab one of those 3 spots, you need to get a wild card spot, which for Montreal, I'm not saying is impossible, but with this division, it's going to be very, very difficult. And they're going to have to find ways to eke out wins. So, here are my parting thoughts. I think things could get a little bit better with Cole Caulfield, but with cap space the way it is, you're going to need guys that are on maybe potentially bad contracts like Josh Anderson, not trying to call him out, but with him getting paid that much, he is going to have to provide much, much, much more in order to help this team out. I don't honestly see them going back to the Stanley Cup Finals for some time with this roster. Not to say that they couldn't, because this is a very motivated group, but you cannot deny and say that this didn't happen, that along the run, there were times that Montreal was getting outplayed. And they it's not all luck. They did have a lot of heart. And while they did get outplayed, they managed to eke out these wins. I'm not denying that. And it was a mixture of luck. And I don't know if I'd say legit, as in they're a legit contender, but they made it there. But going forward, I have to be honest with you. With the cap situation, I cannot see Montreal going to the Stanley Cups with this group anymore. Call me crazy. I don't know if you agree or disagree with me. This doesn't mean I hate Montreal, so Habs fans, please understand. I don't hate you. And I like a lot of the guys on the team. I like Carey Price. I like Shea Weber, Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki. Suzuki, Tyler Toffoli. I mean, he was a Vancouver Canuck for crying out loud. Josh Anderson. But with this group, I don't see them being a true contender going forward. Let me know if you agree down in the comments below. Do you think Montreal will be there for the next few years making legit playoff runs, or do you think that they'll kind of be where they were before, struggling to make the playoffs? And like that, let me know down in the comments below. Please make sure to like and subscribe. If you could please do that. This was a longer video. It took a while to do the notes. I apologize for not getting a video out for the past 2 days. I ordered some stuff online. It was supposed to be here. We were going to do a reveal for that. It was like hockey apparel. But it hasn't arrived yet, so that's why we didn't do it. But yeah, if you could please like and subscribe, I appreciate that so much. Everybody stay safe, have a great day, and stay away from COVID, alright? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.